All right, let's talk about the patch changes, or rather the 1.30 PTR, because some of these changes will not necessarily be going through, but there's a lot of changes, and I was pretty surprised actually at the length of the patch. I didn't think it was going to be
Oh,
necessarily like a big or a small
yeah.
patch, but that was like a pretty massive one. Goes to Green with the resub. Thank you very much. Welcome back. All right, so let's get going. So first is the thing that I should mention is there is an anti-cheat update, which I think is great. Like, I feel like there definitely needs to be like a good crackdown on all the cheating that can be happening, whether it's with Mapac or like the people that like do bot winning and stuff. Like a guy that was rank 1 and he's now rank 2 did that on Europe. I think it's quite great that they are doing this. So I hope there will be more of that. Unit button locations and hotkeys adjust for consistency. Not quite sure what this is. And here we talk about some bugs that were resolved as well. Defend consistently reflects damage from piercing attacks again. I'm not sure what this is. Blade Master able to pass through intended items during windwalk again. Maybe there was like a bug where if you windwalk, like there was items that like didn't work properly. Killing a Dementor at the end of its metamorphosis no longer prevents metamorphosis from being used for the rest of the match. I didn't even know that was a thing, but that sounds pretty bad. Actually, okay. I don't think we need necessarily to go over. Oh, actually, this is the wrong thread. The changes. Yeah. Let's go to this.
Let's get this party started.
Thank you, Deathcar, for the 5. Yeah, let's. So, right off the bat, we go into the hero balance changes. I think those are like, let's see. Yeah, it's not, there is not that many compared to units, I feel, in comparison. So, let's start. So, Archmage, the Water Elementals got a hit point nerf, but they got a damage buff. I think like they're very tanky. It's kind of weird because it's hard to tell how it will scale, the damage buff compared to the hit points. Like if they hit harder, obviously, they will take opponents or creeps down quicker. But in terms of just creeping, I'm not talking fighting against the opponents. They will take the creeps down quicker, but they will die quicker as well. So it's like maybe it balances properly. In terms of scaling, I'm not sure. But in terms of actually fighting somebody, then now Dispel stuff will actually be better against Water Elementals. Like it will not feel like they basically never die unless you have unlimited Dispel. So that counts for everything. Orc is definitely gonna be, I think, happy about that because like it feels like maybe from the moment you get like 2 or 3 Spirit Walkers, it can be very hard to remove all the Water Elementals before that. But now like you can definitely clear out a lot of these guys away pretty well. So I'm not sure. Like I feel like this is an okay change personally. Like even though like I said, I don't know how it scales. Like maybe for the creeping, it could end up being very bad. But the fact that they have more damage definitely should be good, I think. Brilliance Aura. So I feel like this is a change that was needed because Brilliance was definitely really, really good. It's like, then again, I feel like every race should have something that's really good. But for human, that was like one of the big things about going Archmage first is like you have to play with Brilliance. So this is a very potential meta-breaking thing, in my opinion, where Brilliance will still be good, or it'll be okay, but is it good enough that you still have to go Archmage first almost every single game? And Water Elemental, or do we see some insane meta changes where people start going for a lot of very different heroes? Are we gonna see neutral heroes maybe used more? Because like both of these changes, like as much as this is like a scale thing with the Water Elemental, and it might be like similar to the old one, Brilliance is definitely like I would say a very decent nerf. I wouldn't say like a massive nerf, but on level 3, 225 to 1.75. And I agree, I think it was necessary. I think like Brilliance before was just insane. On level 2 or 3, it was like too much. So I think it's good that they changed it like that. But the big question for me is like with all of these changes, do we start seeing a lot more neutral heroes from human? That's possible. We'll see. Mass teleports increase area of effect from 700 to 800. I think that's good. Like we've all been there and forgot some units that were slightly too far outside the radius. Blade Master base stats reduced agility from 24 to 22. Personally, I feel like this is good that the Blade Master is still being nerfed a little bit, but I'm not sure if this is enough, you know, like 24 to 22, like, is it that big a change compared to like changing something about Windwalk or like Critical Strike was already changed, so I thought that Windwalk might definitely need a chance, maybe more mana, less duration, less speed, one of the three, but instead it's an agility nerf, so Blade Master will have a little bit less damage, but I guess, yeah, you can buy like some more items, like a circlet or something, and be totally fine. So I'm not sure about this one. I feel like this is not enough. And maybe it's in the fear that Orc is very reliant on Blade Master and that they would be bad without it if it was nerfed too much. Lich Frost Armor, all levels, reduce slow duration against all units to 4 seconds. I don't know what it was before, but I think that it's good that Frost Armor is getting a nerf. I feel like this was definitely too strong. It's like, especially on Fiends, whenever Frost Armor was applied, it felt like it was actually pointless to hit them with melee units. They just would not die, so I definitely like feel like Frost Armor has been too good for way too long time, so I'm glad that they reduced it. At least a little bit. I don't know. Yeah, it was 5, okay. Yeah, that's a good thing for sure then. Not a big nerf. Like this is like a nerf done right, in my opinion. Where it was like, I think pretty good, but at least reduced from 1 second now. Demon Hunter base stats reduce agility from 22 to 21. Not 2 agility this time, just the 1. Thank you, Juan, for the host. Much appreciated. Yeah, so just 1 agility. I mean, I guess there's been a lot of complaint about demons, so it's like almost like, there it is, guys. Here's a demon nerf. Shut up. Don't talk to Demon Hunter. Don't talk about Demon Hunter anymore, guys. And Metamorphosis reduced duration from 60 to 45. Yeah, I also feel like Metamorphosis was one of those things that did last for a very long time, and it felt like that Demon Hunter was just on a straight rampage and wasn't stoppable. Like you could obviously TP out of a fight where Metamorphosis was active, but then it felt like the window during which there was no Metamorphosis and you could try to fight was not long enough. Not that will increase that, so I like that. Force of Nature, all levels reduce mana cost from 125 to 100. I still don't know in what context this could be very good, to be honest. I feel like Entangle and Thorn Aura is like almost always better when you play with Keeper, almost no matter what. But who knows? Who knows? Maybe we might start... I guess like it was so underused that maybe now we will see a bit more of it, which is not a bad thing. Goblin Alchemist. Okay, this one, in my opinion, was one of the most necessary changes. Healing Spray was so obnoxious that in Human you basically could not do anything else than Alchemist second, so it's good that it's being nerfed. Level 1 from 40 to 30, then 55 to 45, and then 70 to 60. It's just 10, but I feel like it could make a difference to the point where Alchemist is not as good and we could still be seeing other heroes as second hero in the Human. As far as other matchups go, kind of same thing. Like he was so good that almost every race started using him. Maybe not Orc as much, but Night Elves, they started using a lot of Alchemist as second. Yeah, I think he's still going to be pretty good as well. This is not a nerf that I look at and like, okay, nobody wants to play Alchemist anymore, but it is something that was necessary for sure. So Transmute, increase conversion factor from 0.8 to 1.25. That's interesting. Not sure what to make of this exactly. Like, I guess we'll have to wait and see it in action to really be able to judge like if that was necessary at all. I don't feel like there were too many complaints about transfuse or anything. Goblin Tinker. Base stats reduce armor from 4.5 to 3.5. I think that's good because the Tinker definitely felt like he was basically immortal. Like I saw so many games where like one hero plus a few units was attacking the Tinker and he's just not losing any HP. And it's like, what the hell, can this guy even die? So I think that's a good thing to reduce the armor a little bit. Pocket Factory now has heavy armor instead of normal. I wonder exactly how that's gonna affect the Pocket Factory, like how you play it and stuff. I'm having a hard time picturing it. I don't use a whole lot of Tinkers, so I use it here and there, and then usually when I used it, it was like to troll around with cluster rockets. So I'm also not sure what to think. Well, what do you guys think about that, actually? Maybe you guys can share your thoughts about Pocket Factory. You think it's going to be taken down very fast now that he has heavy armor? I don't know, like, Pocket Factory, there's always the argument that if you target it, you're not targeting the units, but you must target it because otherwise it's doing a lot of damage. It's a nerf versus orc. Yeah, I guess. Tinker Third is going to be way worse. Night Elf versus orc, yeah. But in other scenarios, you guys think that was targeted for Night Elf against orc? Does it affect a lot of playing Tinker first against the other races, you think, maybe? I'm not sure, really. I feel like it's hard for me to talk about the stuff that I haven't used much, you know, even when it's like other races. So we'll see. Tinker was definitely, I would say, like pretty good. It had its place in the game, but we're definitely seeing a lot of changes that I personally would not have expected. So, engineering upgrade. Level 1 increase spawn interval time for clockwork goblins from 4 to 4.5 seconds. Level 2 increase spawn interval time from 3.2 to 3.5. So they nerfed as well the clockwork goblins. I think, yeah, it was very strong before for sure. It's kind of weird, like the Tinker is like such a unique hero that when you think about it, you don't think as like this crazy guy that's like really OP as like a first hero or something. But it's definitely playable and it has its place if you're playing like a special and specific time. I didn't particularly feel like it needed like an insane nerf or something, but then again, I don't feel like this is like a massive nerf. Then again, like I said, I don't play a whole lot with him. Cluster rockets increased, like I like that. But it's only on level 3. Increased damage for cluster rockets from 27.5 to 30.5, so just a small buff on level 3. I guess it's more encouraging to play with cluster rockets. Then again, realistically, how many games are we going to see a Tinker with cluster rockets level 3? Maybe one game in a million. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that change warrants retraining for that either. Probably not. Naga Sea Witch Mana Shield. Increased damage absorbed from 1 to 2 at level 1. And then from 1.5 to 3. So it's like double every time. And then 2 to 4. Do you really want to tank with the Naga Sea Witch? Or do you want to use that hero as extra damage? Like in what context are you going to use the Naga Sea Witch and try to have damage but also try and tank with it? I feel like the only scenario is maybe Night Elf against Undead when you have Naga Sea Witch and you know that she could get nuked. Maybe that's the only moment. Other than that, I don't know. I really don't know where this really fits in the game. It was always Ford Lightning and Frozen Arrow, like nothing else will matter. So I'm not sure. I guess we'll have to see. Night Elf versus Night Elf does push at early tier 2. Yeah. I mean, I look at this and I'm like, yeah, there's no way. Like, I don't know. Just maybe we could see like a very cheesy build where somebody goes like Naga first and then builds her up with a lot of items or something like that. But I'm having a hard time seeing it, like I said. Pandaren Brewmaster. Breath of Fire. So Panda, I think he's always been one of those very strong heroes. That definitely feels very strong, but because everybody has gotten quite good at playing against him, they can kind of nullify all of his damage and get prepared properly by having enough healing scrolls and stuff, but it definitely felt like one of those stronger heroes in my opinion. Probably in my opinion, the strongest hero out of the Tavern for a long time, maybe not necessarily with the latest patch and changes, because like Alchemist definitely had his place very high up there, like Naga was still useful in certain cases, but yeah, Panda always felt like he was really strong. And some of the last number that you see on level 3 here definitely, I think, echoes that. So I like the mana cost increase because I feel like 70 was definitely too little. 75 is good. And it's like, it's so small a change that you can still go Drunken Haze as well and combo. But now you're going to have to pay more attention to your mana, like all the time. Like, for example, if you're spamming creeps to creep faster, you're gonna run out of mana a little bit quicker. You know, 5 every time adds up if you're using Breath of Fire multiple times. So level 1, reduce damage over time from 7 to 5, and reduce max damage from 520 to 480. That's decent, you know. I feel like if they had nerfed the Panda a lot, they would have made him kind of useless. maybe, and like nobody would have played it anymore. So it's always about finding the right balance. Now, by reducing it this way with like such small numbers, I feel like it's maybe like we've hit the right number there where it's still going to be useful, but it's not going to be to the level where it's like actually insane and just everything's dying and like it feels like there's nothing you can do. So kind of same thing, level 2 from 1000 to 720. That feels like a lot, but I think ratio wise that's okay. And same thing, level 3, 1,360 it used to do. That's ridiculous. Like that's like a lot. That's maybe way too much. So I like that they reduce it to 1080. And I feel like that's going to help in a lot of cases for human when we play against the panda as second and he's just using Drunken Haze, Breath of Fire on my casters. You know, like human against Night Elf is like a really fun matchup in my opinion, but there is some cases where like you're facing Bear Dryad and 2 high level heroes and you have to make casters no matter what because you have to try and slow the bears. But the opponent, he has Fairy Dragons and a high level panda. And so Fairy Dragons, every time you slow you take damage, and then the panda just basically finishes the casters, and they are so squishy that Healing Scrolls can barely keep them alive. So I like that change. I feel like maybe that's going to help a little bit against that slightly more for sure. In other cases, I'm not sure. Maybe against undeads, it's going to help as well. I mean, we don't really see gargoyles anymore, so it's not like there's a panda terrorizing the gargoyles the whole time. So this is also a potential, you know, really meta-breaking change where if players judge that the nerf on the panda warrants using other heroes, this could make things very interesting. For example, like Night Elf against Undead in comparison, like one of the things. Link to notes. Just do exclamation mark PTR. There is the comment to get the link to the thread, and then you can access the changes. So human balance changes. We've been asking for a long time at a way to deal with destroyers better, and I think like this is meant to address that mostly. There's no really other scenarios. In human it could play a role as well, but you don't see air as much, I think. So Flying Machine base stats, increase hit points from 200 to 250. I like that a lot because Flying Machines, they're good and they can do their job if you get the right amount against the right composition, but it definitely feels like they die very fast to spells. And when I say spells, I'm thinking mostly 1, Panda, and then 2, the new Dreadlord with the Carrion Swarm, which I think, what was it, like from level 2, pretty close to one-shot Flying Machines, which is very unfortunate, you know, when you see a Carrion Swarm killing all of your Flying Machines. So I like that change quite a bit. But I feel like if it was just this change, maybe it would be too much. So they actually increased the gold cost for it from 90 to 100. I think that's okay as well. Like a 10 difference. You have to get a lot of flying machines a lot of the time. So this 10 will add up, right? It's not like you make 5 flying machines and you're like, okay, I got the air covered, guys. No, usually when you make flying machines, you need like 12 to 24 to really clear an air army properly, maybe even more sometimes. So it's okay, I think, to increase that. Increase damage 14, 15 to 18, 19. Air versus air only. I like that a lot, actually. I think this is great because before, you wouldn't even think about going for flying machines against air early on in games. But now, just with that already, it's so much more interesting to actually go for them. So I think this is like really, really nice, and that will change the meta in a lot of cases. Like imagine human against undead, if you fast expand and the opponent is clearly going mass destroyers, and you get a bunch of workshops. What does he do? Does he transition into ground? Then maybe you could go mortars, but mortars have been changed as well. So it's like, it creates this very, very weird dynamic, I think, which I guess we'll have to try and see. Militia base stats, decrease duration from 45 to 40 seconds. This is like a bit worrying, to be honest, because in some cases it felt like Militia finished just on time, like where it should finish, but it also felt like it lasted too long whenever you're playing against it. So 45 to 40 seconds is just like a 5 seconds change. Maybe it's gonna scale better as like a defensive unit, more as like, you know, an offensive that like you're headed to the middle of the map to fight with. They'll still there, like if they're not being targeted down, they'll still be there as peasants to block off the opponent and fight anyway. It's not like, you know, after the 40 seconds expire, they're not doing anything anymore. So, but on certain maps, where it's very hard to expand, say like Amazonia. I think this could be like very difficult now. You might have to use more militia than before. Before you use like 6. Now you might have to use 8 to have more damage to really take down that expo very fast, those creeps, because the opponent is on you, usually harassing you. And now if the militia runs out and you're there with peasants, this is like the one time where you can't afford to be fighting the opponents and the creeps at the same time. Whichever one left are back, are still there, even if it's just the 2 trappers, for example. So gotta make, like, I guess we're just gonna have to adapt to this as human players and figure out what's the right amount of militia and like where we use them in terms of like creeping and stuff. Mortar team base stats decrease half damage radius from 150 to 100 and decrease quarter damage radius from 250 to 200. So it's kind of weird to me. Like, this is like almost one thing that jumped to my mind when I read this. I was like, mortar nerf, really? Like, was that necessary? Like, was anybody complaining about mortars that they were too good? Maybe in team games or something? I don't know. I never felt like the mortar was like this one unit that was like way too good and needed to get nerfed. You already saw them fairly rarely, to my opinion and to my liking. So I'm a little bit surprised by this. I'm not sure why exactly this was done like that, but curious whether that's going to stay in the game and if anybody's going to have feedback about it, because we really don't see mortars all that often, I think. Yeah, the Dryads I used to have complained. Yeah, I guess that's like the one case where like it can splash Dryads, but sometimes... I mean, usually you will see Dryads spread out well enough that this wouldn't affect them that much, to be honest. Like Dryads, if they stand in place and they're being targeted by mortars, they will still die, no matter the radius, I think. So I'm not sure about this change exactly, like what this is meant to target. Yeah, they were too good against Banshees. Okay, Night End, if you're gonna troll the chat, you can get out, mate, by the way. Like, the guy who has Death Coil and Nova for the mortars is complaining that they were killing Banshees too fast. And how would you know, by the way, Night End, you go mass destroy us every game? Anyway, don't distract me like this, please. Priest, Dispel Magic. Increase cast range from 500 to 600. I like that, I think. It's like a small buff. And Priests, they always feel like this kind of stupid unit where you press Dispel and they're just standing there like, herp, derp, derp. Like, do I use Dispel? Like, how long am I going to take to go over there and then use it? So I don't know. Like, I think it's good to add something like that. I did a 5-second cooldown, so I think it's good. Like, you can't spam Dispels anymore, so you're going to have to micro more intelligently. I think that's okay to add a change like that. Like, before it was like, when they finally are dispelling, they're like, Dispel, 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 and they're like removing everything. That's gonna be weird as well against the new water elementals that have less HP. You can't spam it like before, but there is a 5 seconds cooldown. We'll have to see, I guess. Applies to Doomguard, the creep, Doomguard summoned, and Panda and Brewmaster Storm. This one I'm surprised about, that you can remove the storm. So I don't know. Like, I'm having a hard time picturing it. I feel like it's one of the first things that I hope I see in game to actually be able to see how it's like. I think it might be okay. Panda is like considered one of the best ultimates out there, but the fact that Panda's Breath of Fire damage and this was changed like this maybe makes the Panda a lot worse. Siege Engine base stats increase supply cost from 3 to 4.
Oh, yeah.
Business with a resub 5 months. Thank you very much, mate. Welcome back. So the supply cost from 3 to 4 is like, it's a bit weird because usually how many tanks do you make? If you make, let's say like 15 tanks, that's 15 more supply. And like, you don't want to break upkeep. So it feels like you're gonna want to make less tanks than before to make sure you don't break to high upkeep. And that's gonna cost you a few tanks to be able to do that, basically. So that makes it really, really weird where you'll have a few less tanks. Like, I think every human player's reaction when we first see this is like, you look at it and you're like, okay, that's a really big nerf. Actually, that's really bad for human. But the more you think about it, the more you're like, that's just one supply. Is it really that bad that tanks would suddenly be a lot worse? Like, they could have changed the armor. They could have changed a lot of things. The damage, I don't know. Like, make them more vulnerable to spells, but they changed the supply cost from 3 to 4. So maybe in itself, it's not so bad. I definitely feel like if you could set up an expo with a lot of towers, and you could go into a lot of tanks, it was a very obnoxious build which was too strong as well. Like a lot of players, they knew how to play against it. They knew not to let the human take a second expo, but it was still extremely strong. So they could have given more XP. Didn't they do that before? But kept 3 food? Yeah, that's also a possible change, but I think limiting the amount of tanks that you can get is also a very good thing to do. And now it's like, I think a good limitation, in my opinion. Like now if you make, or before when you made 3 tanks, that was 9 supply. Now you made 2 tanks, you're at 8 supply already. So it's almost 2 tanks instead of 3. That's not too bad a trade-off. Like you can't have as many as before where they're like forward, never dying, there's so many of them. I think that's an okay change personally. Spellbreaker, spell steal, cooldown increased from 3 to 6 seconds. Okay, so like this one, when I saw this change, this is like one of the changes where I looked at and I was like, okay, this is a joke or what? Like we never ever see spell steal. But that's the thing. This is a very long patch notes and a lot of things are changing, such as the Necromancers. So maybe, I don't know. Ah, no, actually, no, it's spell steal, not magic control. I was thinking magic control. Actually, yeah, that's a decently big deal. 3 to 6 seconds. I just realized. I thought that was magic control before. Oh, am I thinking the right thing, guys? Because before, in my mind, that was really magic control I was thinking about. And I was like, why would you ever change magic control? Nobody uses that thing. But spell steal is actually... I don't know. Spell steal is the one where if somebody uses a Scroll of the Beast, for example, you steal it, right? Hey, it's weird that was changed from 3 to 6 seconds because it's on autocast. So usually before it was very strong to only have 3 seconds. You could steal like a lot of Spirit Link and Roar. Maybe it was too strong. I think I would say definitely maybe it was too strong. That's what made the breaker good. I don't look at this change and I'm like, okay, now you can't go breakers anymore. But 3 to 6 seconds is like pretty significant. That's like double. So yeah, I guess we'll see. I guess Spirit Link, that was always pretty important. Then again, usually what happens is that unless you're playing very aggressive, which I guess you are most of the time against Orc, you're going to have enough spell breakers anyway to steal everything from the opponent before they reuse it. And then you don't need to re-steal it since you already have it. So it's kind of, I don't know. Not sure what to think about this one. But yeah, in my mind, actually, I was thinking magic control before, which I was like, why would you ever change magic control? We haven't seen it since the release where somebody tried it one time and then never used it again. But I guess no, it's not magic control, it's spell steal. Ivory Tower's base stats. Increased lumber cost from 20 to 25. Reduce stock from 3 to 2. So the Ivory Towers, it would be very easy to mistake them for Scout Towers, but they are not. The Ivory Towers are the one that you buy from the shop. So I like that change because I always thought these were very strong, and it's a very slight nerf. Lumber cost from 20 to 25 is not massive, and reduce stock from 3 to 2, same thing, it's not massive. So I like that these get nerfed because I think they were way too good. The fact that you could tower rush with 3 was like kind of bad in my opinion. Like, yeah, I don't know. I was not a big fan of tower rushing with kid towers. Expanding with 3 is better than expanding with 2, but you can still build a third one with the peasant that you bring there. I don't think it's a slight nerf. I think it's a big nerf. Really? I don't know. Maybe it's because I don't use these that much personally. I guess if you're one of those human players where you use Ivory Towers a lot to either tower rush or expand, I guess it's more tower rush in itself, right? Maybe that's a bigger nerf. The 3 to 2 in particular. The lumber cost, I'm sure, like, we won't mind paying a little bit more lumber. Use them for creeping Todd. Yeah, but that's because I'm too lazy to buy dust. Actually, because dust is significantly cheaper. I should be buying more dust, yeah, against Orc. Orb of Fire base stats. Okay, one of the best changes, I think, to this. We've always talked about how an orb was like very important for human to have its place in the game and be buffed. So the fact that it got changed so positively is, I think, really nice. So increase hero bonus damage from 5 to 10. Increase splash damage radius from 140 to 150. Increase gold cost from 275 to 325. When I read these changes, I'm like, okay, yeah, it actually makes sense. But there's gonna be that weird thing where if you're playing with an Archmage and you're thinking of retraining, you can't put the orb on the Archmage because then he won't be eating. He'll just be blizzarding the whole time. So I don't know exactly how this is this is going to be used most of the time. Like, are you more encouraged now to maybe stay on water elementals in many cases as opposed to before to make sure you can use the orb? The main matchup in which we go for castle anyway, like against orc, a lot of the time you're going to see a lot of tier 2, against night elf as well. Is this trying to encourage humans to go more for castle tech, which was mostly used either in human sometimes, or against undead a lot of the time before? And against undead, if you're buying orb, it means you want water elementals. So maybe that actually lines up pretty well with basically going water elemental, keeping water elemental, and getting enough flying machines to clear out the destroyers. And then you have orb of fire that does extra damage as well. So basically, like, human is the new undead, you know, with the orb that you get on tier 3, and you're like, yes, huge power spike. Then again, the number are not crazy either, you know, like it's like 5 to 10 on hero bonus damage. Like, how many times are going to hit in one fight with an Archmage or an MK? Not necessarily like a million times. Splash damage radius increase, but it's like, you know, 150 instead of 140. It's not that high. So it's not one thing that I look at and I'm like, okay, you have to purchase Orb of Fire every single game. It's definitely a buff, even though it's more costly now, but it's not like a crazy buff. But that was necessary. Like, that's a good start, I think. Maybe they'll scale it better for the actual patch. Remember, this is just a PTR. They're going to be trying this at first. Human upgrades, defense. Damage reduction reduced from 50% to 40%. Reflection damage reduced from 100 to 90%. These are also, I think, pretty convincing numbers because it's not like this huge nerf. Like, defense probably needed a nerf, but it's not like this huge nerf where it's like, oh my god, defense is going to be trash now. I can't really use it. The one thing that this makes me worried for is if I'm going neutral hero first, say like Firelord or something, and then you have to get defend, and usually you do that on the maps where it's good to creep with defend, and now they'll take a little bit more damage because of the damage reduction being reduced a little bit. So maybe you'll have to drop a shop quicker and regenerate them, I guess. Flak cannons. Maybe like one of my favorite changes from the PTR. Now unlock with keep. Swapped command card location with Lang Machine bombs. So this is actually, I think, pretty insane. Because now, if you're against undeads and you see that they're going for destroyers like they usually do, you'll have this very strange dynamic where you can drop. I wonder actually, is this? I'm like trying to picture the matchups in my mind. Let's say you're against undead on Last Refuge or Amazonia. You set up your expo, you get a bunch of towers. They're going tier 3 like they usually do. They're making statues. You go for double workshop, blind before you can know whether they're going for a lot of statues, or do you go for one workshop? I think one workshop wouldn't be enough. And then if the undead sees that you have double workshop, I guess maybe they stop at like 3 statues and they transition, but then you need to transition as well. But you're already on 2 workshops. What do? Make a bunch of tanks maybe. You can make sure you got air covered. You know in what scenario this could get crazy? Is if you go for a second hero that's a summoner. Imagine you go Archmage and then you go Beastmaster. And you go double workshop and you're like, come at me, motherfucker. I dare you to make some destroyers. So things could get crazy with that because then you get maybe like Knights on the ground. Frost Armor has been nerfed a little bit. So we could be seeing a return of Knight Flying Machine, I think, perhaps. Potentially in the matchup against Undead. In other matchups, I'm not sure exactly like what this is going to do. But in human, I guess air will be less likely now. Which is good. I always thought human air was like so stupid. It's like you get Panda with Breath of Fire to kill flying machines. You get mass Gryphons and then you pray that the opponent messes up and then you can kill him. So I've never really liked that meta personally. Fragmentation shards. Reduce half damage radius from 275 to 225. Increase quarter damage radius from 250 to 275. Reduce bonus damage for half damage radius from 18 to 15. And reduce bonus damage for quarter damage radius from 12 to 10. So that's like, that's a nerf, obviously. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure in what situation. Like, how often did we see fragmentation shard and thought this is really OP. Like this needs to be changed. I feel like not very often, so I'm not sure why this is being changed like that. Maybe it's a team game thing, where like in team games in 4v4, one guy was going for fragmentation shard and like blowing up everything, and people were like, oh my god, let's email Blizzard about it. And then they thought they need to do something about it. But yeah, I never thought of that as like a crazy thing. Against Night Elf, you almost never see tier 3. In Human, I guess you saw it here and there. I guess you have to balance the game for like every mode anyway, right? Like I don't think you could only look at the competitive scene and only at solo and be like, okay, yeah, that's how we're gonna balance the game. So this maybe comes from like a team game setup. Because in solo, I've never thought of fragmentation shards as something that needed to be changed. Masonry. So now it's more costly. They didn't write from how much. I think maybe in the Reddit thread that was written better. But it's a slight increase, basically. Like before, it was, especially in lumber, you're gonna feel this. I think gold you always have plenty of as human, because let's assume you went for an expansion. I mean, that's the case where you need to upgrade masonry, right? So it's a little bit more lumber. I think that's okay considering what it does. It makes towers quite a bit better, so I think that's okay, that change. I don't mind it too much. Batrider. Increased bonus damage from 13-15 to 16-18. I think everybody that's ever played against Batriders, when they see this change, they're all picturing the same thing. A Blade Master with Orb, mass Batriders attacking their buildings and doing hit and run all over the place on a map like Twisted Meadows. And they're like, oh my god. So I don't know. Everybody's supposed to be quite a bit better than they used to be. Same thing as Batriders, like in competitive. I don't think you're necessarily going to be worried that much about them. Then again, there could be some really abusive strats that could end up being used in those cases. So yeah, like it's one of the things that I'm having a hard time picturing personally. But we'll see. Berserker base stats. Increase hit points from 450 to 475. Yeah, that's the upgrade for Headhunters, right? Yeah, I think that's okay. 475, a little bit more HP. It did feel like they were dying pretty fast. Like usually you see them the most against Undead when Orc is tier 3. And they get targeted by the Lich and die pretty fast as well. So the Lich and the units. Headhunter. Increase hit points from 350 to 375. It did feel like these guys died very fast, to be honest. Like when I see Headhunters, I was never like, oh my god, it's Headhunters, I'm gonna die. I was more like, I guess I'll click on you and kill you, and like you're dead. Increased regeneration upgrade from 0.8 to 1.0 hit point per second. So it's better all around. It's like a better supporting unit that you can make out of the barracks. Like before, people wouldn't even consider Headhunters except against Undead almost in any case, and if you're going tier 3. But especially with the strats now where you go for say like a Torrent Chieftain first and then Headhunters, it's gonna be better too. So again, kinda could be a meta changing thing where like they are made better and like we could see more of them. We'll see. Shaman base stats. Increase hit points from 335 to 350. Shamans have always felt like this pretty shit unit that you should never ever see unless you were playing FFA and then you're being left alone and you're making Bloodlust. So I think a nerf was definitely in order for them, even though, like I said, like some units don't have to be valid in every situation. But whenever you have a unit like the Shaman that has no place in any matchup, unless you're playing FFA or team games for the Bloodlust, maybe it's better to buff it so that it can start being a little bit more viable in like normal games other than like big team games. So I think that's okay. That's, you know, they went for a buff. So 335 to 350. Bonus damage from 8.9 or 8.9 to 10.11. Not the biggest numbers, but I guess that's a buff anyway. Purge though. Decrease mana cost from 75 to 65. I think that's pretty nice. Because they already did come out with a Purge, but now you'll get a second one quicker. And Purge is like the main thing where when Shamans comes out, usually you already need that Purge to be able to do well and do something. So I think looking at that, I still feel like we probably won't see a whole lot of Shamans, but who knows? Maybe some people are going to be like, okay, yeah, no, this is pretty good. Spirit Walker, change hotkey from T to W. Where's the W? Why? Why do you do that? I have no idea actually about this one. Maybe some Orc players can enlighten me. I've never thought much of the hotkey of Spirit Walkers. Torrent Totem now unlocks with Stronghold instead of Fortress, so you can now make it on tier 2. Now trains Spirit Walkers and Spirit Walkers upgrade. That's a big deal because I guess you could technically go for both. Spirit Lodge and Torrent Totem. But if you do that, you can't afford a Bestiary. So unless you're like a madman that takes with one hero and then goes for Totem, Bestiary, and Spirit Lodge, but then you probably won't have the wood for everything, things get really weird now. Because Spirit Lodge now only trains Witch Doctors and Shamans. So people might just go Totem Torrents. Torrent Totems. Wait, can you access... I'm gonna guess, because that's the name of the building. You can access Torrents on tier 2 now? And can you get Pulverized on tier 2 as well? Because this is not mentioned there. Swap command card locations of Spirit Walkers. Our first button, that makes sense. Like it should start by them. Torrent is still tier 3. Okay, yeah, I think that's good. I was like, Torrents on tier 2. Woo! I don't know about that. So I guess like, it's almost as if Blizzard is like, by making this change, they're pushing us towards the new meta. They're like, okay, guys, from now on, you'll go Totem, you'll go for Walkers. I guess you can still get, you can basically skip Spirit Lodge, you get Totem, you get Bestiary, so you can still go for Raiders and Kodos. You go tier 3, and then when you're tier 3, you can go for Torrents in support, buy Orb. Yeah, this is a lot of picturing to do, like, and putting my imagination to work to see like how this works. Extremely interesting. I think I'm gonna play games obviously after I'm done recording this here, and I'm gonna be trying some of these for sure. Orc items scroll speed no longer applies to Goblin Sappers. Okay, yeah, that was ridiculous that it did. I feel like nothing else applies to this. To me, like, speed scroll applying to Goblin Sappers is like if I could invis Goblin Sappers. Can you imagine the world of nightmare we would be living in? So I think that's good. Definitely would have liked a bigger nerf though for scroller speed. Maybe increase it to like 75 gold or 100. Make it so that it can only affect a certain amount of heroes. I don't know, but like, Orc is always escaping with speed scrolls, and it's like very frustrating because you can't kill anything for like 50 gold. Orc upgrades Berserker base stats, decrease the damage debuff from 50 to 40% squad command card location with Troll regeneration upgrade. Honestly, I don't know and I don't care about this change. Let's move on. Burning Oil, move command card location to middle row, so people can find it more easily when they're abusing the new Bat Riders. Yeah, I don't know. Doesn't really matter where it's placed in the stronghold, in my opinion. Although that's Burning Oil, that's for Demolishers, okay. Well, I mean, it's one of those things that you almost never see. Yeah, you almost never see Burning Oil unless we're talking like same thing from 2v2s. And then you start seeing Demolishers in the backline and stuff. But in solo, you don't see it very often at all. Liquid Fire. Reduces the attack speed debuff from 80% to 60%. I mean, I don't think I need to say anything about that either. Reinforced defenses. Reduced from 200 to 150 lumber. Unlocks with strongholds instead of fortress. This is one of the biggest talks of the town right now, because now you can get that on tier 2, and like towers are going to be made significantly better. Burrows are going to be better early on in the game. I mean, burrows were pretty weak for a very long time, to be honest. In a lot of games, like I said, orcs, for the most part, had gotten a lot better at defending some of those attacks. The 150 lumber makes it so that if you've gone for a war mill, obviously you're going to mine more wood, but you'll need that wood to upgrade that on tier 2. So it's like, what this makes me worried for is the orcs that will try to abuse this by tower rushing. Because I think tower rushing is like, I don't know, it can get boring very fast when people do that stuff. a lot, and if it starts being meta, like imagine this is so strong that orcs are tower rushing every single game, I think it's gonna get boring very fast. So I hope that this is not the case. We're not seeing like, I don't know, like double barracks, demolishers, a second hero that's like a summoner, like a firelord, and a Farseer firelord tower rush in like a lot of matchups. That is not insane. Yeah, the fact that it's on tier 2 and costs less number is actually, it's pretty crazy. Spiked barricades, we almost never see that thing. And only from level 2 is it changed. Okay, not only do we almost never see it, when we saw it, it was one level of spiked barricades. But I guess if somebody is abusing mass, like towers against melee units, now you'll have to make mass towers and you get spiked barricades. Honestly, unless you're like a team game player that likes to get towers and get spiked barricades, like this doesn't affect you. We never saw this in like high level games, in my opinion. Draw regeneration, squab command card location with berserker upgrade. Who cares? I guess orcs do. Undead balance changes. Acolyte base stats. Increase hit points from 220 to 230. Acolytes did feel a little bit vulnerable, even though they move decently fast on Blight, and usually if you're in there, you're slowed by a nice tower. But I think that's okay. Like, you know, when you were Acolyte harassing with like AoE and stuff, it did feel like they were basically dying instantly, so I don't mind. Increase hit point generation while on Blight from 2 to 4 per second. That's a pretty big deal. If you can get away with them now and they got more HP, they're gonna regenerate quicker, so they'll be alright, those little guys. Increase armor from 0 to 1, 6% damage reduction. Increase movement speed from 220 to 250. So when I see the 3 first changes, I'm like, that 4th one is not needed. Now basically, you've got Usain Bolt, that's the indestructible man, and that regenerates like the Wolverine. So like, I mean, good luck even trying to kill acolytes. And if you're not harassing an undead acolyte mineral line or like an acolyte gold mine, then what are you going to be doing? Fighting him out on the map? Maybe sometimes he wants that. So yeah, not sure I agree with this. I guess you could still try and target down the gold mine and stuff. But like when something gets buffed in 4 different areas, it's like, for 4 different things, it's like, really, was that really necessary that these guys are gonna be extremely hard to kill now? At least early on. I guess later in the game, if you got clap level 3 and you're clapping these guys, you can still take them down. Destroyer's base stats. Reduce hit points from 900 to 850. Yes! Yes, so much yes. And reduce Orb of Annihilation bonus damage from 20 to 15. Yes, too! I'm so fed up with these bullshit units. Alright, this is like the one thing I was looking forward to the most, is like how destroyers were going to be changed. So I'm glad they're being hit by the nerf hammer a little bit, at least. 900 to 850, not too bad. They will die slightly. It did feel like sometimes they were escaping with like no HP, and like there was no way you could chase them, and they just regenerate and come back and annoy you again. Because like there's nothing that can stop them from human. Orc has ensnare, but human doesn't, so... And yeah, reduce Orb of Annihilation bonus damage. Yeah, I mean, I think like the Orb of Annihilation was just too ridiculous when they absorb mana and stuff, so I'm glad this is changed too. This is good, for sure. One of the best changes, I think, of the dispatch notes. Frostworm, reduce Frost Breath attack duration on heroes from 10 seconds to 3 seconds. That's like the slow, right? I think that's the slow. Well, before, basically, if you got hit by a Frostworm, you could never get away anymore. Either you had a staff or you had a TP to get out, but you could never get away. So now you might be able to kind of run away from that, I'm gonna guess, which is good. Then again, we almost so rarely see Frostworms that, I don't know. As a human player, you know, I don't see them. I'm gonna guess like Night Elves are gonna be the ones more concerned about this. Necromancer, cripple, reduce mana cost from 175 to 150. Unholy Frenzy, reduce drain from 4 to 3 hit points per second. And Raise Dead, increased base summon duration from 40 to 45 seconds. This is interesting because like it's a buff clearly on everything, but it's not that big a buff where I'm like, okay, like Necromancers every matchup, Necrovagan, get ready, choo choo. Not really. Like they're better and they might find maybe their place in the game, and then maybe there's gonna be some maps and strats that you can develop with this. But I don't feel like it's so crazy that you're gonna be seeing Necromancers in so much. I guess you're probably gonna see them more than before. I don't think you look at this change and you're like, okay, nobody's going to make necromancers. We're probably going to be seeing some of them here and there, probably more than before, but not a crazy amount either. So I don't know. Obsidian statue, reduce hit points from 550 to 500. I think that's good. It definitely feels like statues took too long to die for the unit they represent. They're like a spellcaster that gives you back mana or hit points that's very hard to kill, that you can't really hold in place unless, again, you're orc and you have ensnare. So I like that. I think that's good that this change is there. It also makes it harder, like destroyers who are nerfed. The fact that this gets nerfed as well is also a little bit more discouraging to be going for mass destroyers, which I've always thought was kind of stupid. Destroyers are supposed to be a dispelling unit, not a unit that you just mass to be able to do well with. I've always thought like mass spellcaster strats were always kind of silly. Spellcasters, they should always, in my opinion, be made in small numbers and like reinforce and buff your army, but never should they be massed as like the most viable unit that you should get. Obviously, there can be exceptions, like talents against orc. You'll always see like a lot of talents, and I think that makes sense. Like they have their place in the matchup. But imagine if like mass banshees was like a viable composition to go into. Imagine how silly the game would be. So I'm glad that it's not. Skeleton warrior, increase hit points from 180 to 190. That's not bad. Skeleton mage, increase hit points from 230 to 240. Okay, that's starting to be a little bit more scary, but like I said, still don't feel like we should be seeing necromancers every single game. Undead buildings, haunted gold mine. Reduce blight raiders from 960 to 786. So if you make a gold mine by itself, I guess there'll be a slightly less blight spoiling that the base is there when you're looking from afar. And reduce cost to 225 gold and 210 lumber. So it's a little bit cheaper. It's more encouraging for undead to expand now. I thought they reduced the build time, actually. But it's just a resources discount that you're getting now. Kind of weird. I think that's okay to encourage undeads to expand more. Like it was too much of like a one-base thing where like you barely ever expand unless you've gotten really far ahead and you've got map control, which also could be okay. Necropolis, reduce cost from 255 to 225, reduce build duration from 100 to 90 seconds. I mean, I don't think you look at this and you're like, I'm gonna drop a Necropolis every single game at my expo now. It's so much cheaper and comes out quicker. Nah, not really. Ziggurats base stats increase hit points from 550 to 600. So the big deal about this is that now they don't get blown up in one sapper. And that's very important. So as much as I loved blowing up Ziggurats, I think that's good for the undeads that they won't be losing those instantaneously anymore. And that makes it better for them, because before, like, if you're busy fighting on the map and somebody rallies one unit to tank your towers and then a sapper into your Ziggurats and they get blown up, it's like, it was very crippling, especially those that you have spent gold and wood into upgrading for defense. So I think that's good. But obviously, I wonder how many attacks it's gonna take then. How many HP will there be left over from a sapper? Because now you will just basically have to attack them and blow them up as well. Orb of Corruption, decreased armor reduction from 5 to 4. That's good. It always felt like Orb of Corruption was way too good. It's supposed to be a thing that's good, and it's like a very important power spike of undead when you go for tier 3. But I definitely feel like it was too much. Whatever was being attacked by a Lich and a bunch of units died way too fast. And there was like no way to keep it alive, even sometimes heroes. So that's good that they changed this.
Yeah.
On Fisk with the resub, 8 months. Thank you very much. Welcome back to you. Sacrificial Skull no longer requires graveyard to purchase. Decrease stock regeneration from 60 to 45. What is Sacrificial Skull again? Remind me? Is that the thing where... Is that the thing where you drop blight, or... I don't know that. I can't remember. Oh, that's the blight. Yeah, okay. No longer requires graveyard to purchase. Okay, that's pretty insane. That's pretty crazy. And the decreased stock regeneration. Oh my god. So now, I don't know if that's to encourage undeads to creep more, but that's very encouraging. Not only do you want to maybe creep more now, you can also expand more easily. And also, yeah, Tower Rush of Undead was now buffed. Now that the Ziggurats have more HP. Okay, what is going on, guys? Is WarCraft 3 gonna become Tower Rush Craft 3? With the orcs and undeads leading the charge? Against all odds, humans are not towering at all anymore because we only got 2 ivory and they cost more wood. But undeads every game are buying blights, tower rushing an orc, and an orc is making fortified towers across the map. What is going on? That's crazy. Stock regeneration from 60 to 45. How much does it cost? Is it 50 or 75? It's pretty cheap if I remember right. I don't think it's 100. That's a weird change, actually. I don't know, maybe they just wanted to see more of this. But for creeping, this is actually a pretty big thing. Because you can tank a little bit with all of these. 50 gold, that's nothing. 50 gold is nothing, alright? Let me be clear about this. Speed scroll costs nothing, and so does this. Undead upgrades, cannibalize, swap command card. Decrease the duration from 33 seconds to 20 seconds for ghouls and abomination. Increase healing from 10 to 16. Abomination, increase healing from 15 to 25 seconds. Okay, here's what I think about the new cannibalize. We're never ever gonna see it, so you might as well delete it from this page. Don't at me. Devour magic, decrease damage against summon units from 180 to 160. I think that's good because, I don't know, the dispel I've always thought, like from destroyers, especially if you get a lot of them, is like way too good. And like you made enough destroyers, you would get a lot of mana as well, so I think that's okay. Maybe a bit worrying if undead could end up really lacking proper dispel, like if you go for 2 or 3 destroyers, but you're facing a lot of summons, like I don't know, or a lot of stuff to dispel. Yeah, it's only summon units. Guys, I'm calling it. Archmage, Beastmaster, Firelord, mass summons, and mass flying machine. What is undead gonna do? What are they gonna do? They're just gonna die. That's it. Disease Cloud Abomination, increased damage. What? From 1 to 2 per second. Okay, well, whew. I thought it was gonna be a buff as well. I was like, no. So they cut it off. That's crazy, actually. The duration has been reduced 25%, but they've increased the damage 100%. So that's a massive buff. Holy shit. I always thought that Disease Cloud was already pretty good, and it's fairly cheap as well. I don't think Disease Cloud is like very costly, so... And remember, it affects Abominations and I believe Mid-Vagans as well. Oh my god. Okay guys, I take back what I said about the Necromancers. Necrovagan every single game. Oh my god, that's ridiculous. With Disease Cloud, it's game over. It doesn't affect Mid-Vagans? Okay. Oh, okay. Never mind then. Whew. That was scary. Still, oh yeah, it says Abomination only. Okay, I'm stupid. But still, like, Abominations, whenever they come into play, so I'm trying to picture, like, against human, I guess you really can't play Riflecaster anymore. If you play Riflecaster and one Abomination comes in, it's gonna do, what was it called? Have you guys ever played Heroes of the Storm? Have you heard Putrid Bile? When the Abomination, Pudge, basically farts and then drops all that disgusting green stuff all the ground. And everything takes damage for it. It's called Putrid Bile in Heroes of the Storm. That's basically what's in WarCraft 3 right now. If you're playing Rifle, you make one Abomination, you send it inside of the human army, and you tell them, get the fuck out. You're gonna lose everything. There's nothing you can do. You're gonna take too much damage. Yeah, Stitches, yeah. Yeah, anyway, I feel like this is insane. Abominations are like so worrying now. I guess that's the new meta, maybe. Right there. Undead now goes into Aboms pretty quickly. And... because they'll have to play ground. Like, Undead, they need something to play other than Destroyers. So maybe we'll see a lot more Abominations with this. with disease clouds. But how will they deal with air? Gargoyles? Fiends behind the air bombs? Interesting. Exhume corpse now generates creep fiend corpse instead of ghoul corpse. Okay, well. Kappa. Frenzy, swap common card location with cannibalize upgrades. Really? Wasn't cannibalize on the left side? That's a bit weird. Skeletal longevity, increased duration time from 15 to 20 seconds. Increased cost from 50 to 75. What do you guys think about this? Honestly, like, this is stuff that I haven't even really used. Skeletal mastery. What is this one exactly? This is the upgrades? No. I feel like I need to open. Let me check. I feel like some of these are like not explained as well as maybe they should be. Skeleton warrior. Skeleton lasts 40 seconds without skeletal longevity. Make sure you research skeletal longevity to get an additional 15 seconds, making skeleton warriors last as much as 55 seconds. Where is it? Yeah, so that's a decent buff, I guess. Increased cost. It costs like, I mean, come on, 25 gold, really? Like, you serious? But 15 to 20 seconds is always good. It's a 25% buff. It's pretty sick. I don't know, like, the more changes, like, necromancers were like changed quite a bit. Does that affect Road of Necromancy or no? Or is it only the ones by Necros? That Skeleton Master is master training for skill is the one that eats hair, yeah. No unlocks with Halls of the Dead. I wonder, like, this feels like they're really pushing the Necromancers. I wonder how much they would like it to be the meta in like multiple. Only from Necros? Okay. I wonder, like, if they want Necros to be like the main meta in many different cases. Maybe you go Necromancers up until you can reach Abominations, and then you go Disease Cloud. But I guess maybe dealing with air will still not be that easy. Even though obviously you still have Orb. You can get multiple heroes that are good against air, like say when you got the Leech with Nova. And remember, Carrion Swarm is still pretty darn good. Stone form, move command card location to the middle. Yeah, okay. Night Elf balance changes. Archer. Increase hit points from 245 to 260. Archers definitely felt like one of the most squishy units in the game that always died very quick. I don't know, like for me it's very hard because all I picture when I look at these things is the high level play of WarCraft 3 and the pro players. And obviously those guys are very good at keeping their archers alive or at killing them. But I'm sure in like the lower league, the lower levels or in team games, it can be harder and stuff to manage this. Interesting change. Like, you never really see archers in masses. It's always like a few in the early game, and then there's always a transition. So I don't necessarily feel like this warrants like, you know, starting to mass them or anything. Just like a random change, kind of. Texture improve bows. Command card location swap to the machine upgrade. Okay. Chimeras decreased half damage splash radius from 125 to 100. Well, I think that's all right. Not one of the things that if you had asked me about chimeras and how would you like to have them changed, I don't think I would have mentioned anything. I would have said they are fine, but I guess that's the change that's in there. I think one of the big changes that's in there that we might run into later is that I don't believe it's required to make an Ancient of Wind anymore to get a Chimera Roost. So you can access chimeras on tier 3 when you're going Bear Dryads just by making the building and making some of them. You don't need the Ancient of Wind. That's pretty crazy, I think. It's like a big thing to wrap around in your head. Like you're so used of needing the Ancient of Wind. Maybe we could be seeing some crazy strats. Fast tier 3. with just Tri-Hero or something, or like minimal units straight into Chimeras. Or maybe even just like bears into Chimera. I don't know, I guess it helps countering stuff quicker without having to grab that Ancient of Wind that you don't want to be using necessarily. But obviously that you could make in advance. I mean, I still believe that you need to have a Tree of Eternity, like the tier 3, to get the Chimera Roast. I don't believe they made them tier 2, so which would have been insane. Druid of the Claw, Bear Form. Decrease bonus damage from 2944 to 2540. It did feel like they hit too hard sometimes, those guys, so I don't mind this. I think that's alright. Jewels of the Talon, increased cost from 135 to 150 gold. It's almost as if, I mean, they were pretty cheap before for sure, but maybe I think that's mostly targeting the Night Elf against Orc, because that's all you ever saw, mass talents. And even though, if you're, okay, let me take through the mindset of a player that reads a patch note. Somebody reads this, the Orc players, they're like, yes. The Night Elf players, they're like, no. Except, remember that to really forge yourself an opinion on all of these changes, you need to make sure that you've read through all of them. Because maybe talents will not be as viable against Orc, but maybe there is something else in the patch notes that points you towards a big meta change, where you're simply going to have to be differently in the matchup. You're going to be playing differently. It's not just not going to be mass talents necessarily. So 135 to 150 of a unit that you're going to be making in dozens and massing is definitely a lot. Then again, Fairy Fire, reduced duration on units from 90 to 70, reduced duration on heroes from 60 to 40 seconds. I've always felt like Fairy Fire lasted way too long, so I think it's pretty good that this is being nerfed. So definitely, maybe talents will be more of a proper spellcaster that you get in small numbers now, and maybe don't mass as much. Like against Orc was the one matchup where you made so many of them. But yeah, like I said, I don't like seeing spellcasters being masked too much. I always think it's kind of silly. Even though in some cases I myself make mass sorceresses or something for against Orc, you know? I always think it's a little bit silly. You know, spellcasters, they're supposed to be like a support unit and stuff, so they should be used as such. Even though I think the Talon meta was interesting against Orc to watch personally. Like I don't play neither Orc or Elf, but when I watched it, it was very interesting how both players were trying to counter one another. Dryad, abolish magic, reduce damage against summon units from 300 to 250. I mean, I did think that abolish, once you had it and you had like a whole bunch of Dryads, you didn't have to worry anymore ever about summons. So I think it's good that this is being changed. Applies to Eradar, Sorcerer, Naga. What the hell? I guess these are like the things that you can remove. The Furbolg Shaman. Not like you were really worried about. And like most of these guys come from team games, I think it doesn't really matter. Glaive Throwers, base stats, increased bonus damage from 3653 to 5168. I'm looking at these numbers, I'm like, that high? It did feel like Glaive Throwers on tier 1, or like Glaive Throwers, yeah, like without the tier 2 upgrades, were not that scary before, but now I'm looking at this number, and I'm like, ooh, like this is a lot. It could end up being really, really much. So, I don't know, like this, as a human player, what this worries me about is that we're going to be seeing a lot more of Mass Tier 1. Mass Huntress, Archers, AP Pushers, and to me this is really boring. Like I don't want to have to face this stuff and feel like it's way too strong. So Glaives and Ancient Protector Pushes, I don't want to face all that often. I wonder if they want the meta to change in Night Elf against Human to the point where as Human, you feel really worried about going for an expand and you can't expand anymore. So this is one of the changes that I'm like, okay, I think this is too much. I hope this does not go through, or not with these numbers at least. Huntress. Moonglaive now unlocks with Tree of Ages. Tree of Ages is the tier 2. I'm not extremely familiar. I guess that's the downside of learning the game in French and then switching to English. Which one is the Tree of Ages, guys? Yeah, that's tier 2, okay. I think that's okay. And Sentinel. Moonglaive, okay, Moonglaive is the one is... Wait, I'm gonna Google it. Then when you try to Google something Warcraft 3 related, you get all of these World of Warcraft things. Yeah, so Moonglaive is what we typically in France call bounce, the bounce upgrade. So on tier 2, oh my god. Oh my god, that is actually sick. It's more encouraging to go Mass Huntress for sure. Go tier 2, grab a second hero. Sentinel is researched by default. What the hell? Night Elf was already the map hack race, where you get Ultra Vision. Did they remove Ultra Vision from the game? Did I miss the memo or something? Imagine if you go Ultra Vision and you make Huntresses. You're literally gonna see the entire map. And then you go, okay. Oh my god, this is insane. I'm surprised by this. I feel like Sentinel, they could have made it cheap and put it on tier 2. But the fact that Sentinel is researched by default and your Huntresses start with it. Oh my god, this is sick. This is like one of the biggest shocker I think that I've read in this patch. I had seen something like that before, but I didn't read super carefully. But now I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. Mountain Giant base stats. Decrease cost from 425 to 350. Golds. Decrease supply from 7 to 6. So I think Mountain Giant is like this one unit that you almost never see. And I think obviously they want people to play more with them. So this is why those changes are in there. The thing about Mountain Giants is that they're really bad on tier 2. But on tier 3 they start being quite a bit better. So Huntresses into glaives, and if the opponent doesn't die, you add a couple Mountain Giants in front of the glaives, and then you kill him. Is what I'm picturing right now. But yeah, these things could get very interesting with that. I wonder, like, I wish like these changes were like listed a little bit more. Like if there's gonna be upgrade changes of the Mountain Giants, they should be like right under this. Like right now, I only see this. I'm like, okay, not sure where this fits exactly. Hippogriff taming is researched by default. This one has got me pooping my pants, guys. Imagine if a Night Elf is pressuring you with, say, like a Demon Hunter, you're trying to expand, you expand, and they got archers, they're trying to cancel the towers. They proxy in the middle of the map a shop, grab a Naga. They also proxy like 1 or 2 Ancient of Wind and make a bunch of hippos. And then they get the archer range upgrade. Imagine how fast and from how far these towers are gonna die. Like this makes me very worried. Like there is a lot of cheesy build that you can end up seeing with this. You can go Keeper second to make sure you can target rifles, which is like one of the counters to this. This is weird. If you do reach tier 2 and you get Flying Machine though, it could be good against this, but then the opponent will just drop the archers on the ground. Like it gets into a really weird game. So I wonder, is this as abusive as I'm picturing it to be? And how much of it are we going to be seeing in the future? I'm curious about this. And yeah, Hippogriff Rider increased hit points from 765 to 780. Just a slight buff as well on the hit points. Definitely felt a little bit squishy here and there, especially against Undead Nuke in the past. Night Elf Buildings, Ancient of War. Reduce hit points from 1000 to 900. Night Elf Buildings are very tanky, to be honest. So I think it's good that this is being changed a little bit too. Reduce bonus attack damage from 44 to 36. They definitely hit pretty hard as well. Alright to change this. Remove Sentinel upgrade research by default. Yeah, we went over this. That's very, very scary.
Yeah.
Meister Vini with a resub 11 months. Thank you very much. Welcome back. 1 month away from a new badge in the chat. Congratulations. Welcome back, mates. Ancient Protector. Reduce build time from 60 to 55 seconds. Guys, Mass Huntresses into APs and glaive throwers. It's coming. Decreases rooted attack cooldown from 2 seconds to 1.7 seconds. What? Oh my god. So they attack quicker as well? Oh my god. Decreased uprooted attack cooldown from 1.5 seconds to 4. Yeah, I mean, uprooted, we don't care. You're not supposed to attack when they're uprooted. But when they're rooted, they do this damage instead of this per second. That is insane. I didn't think that APs hit for too little. You don't even need that many of them. You just get like 2 or 3. Then the units do the rest. Moonwell base stats. Increase mana regeneration at nights from 1.25 to 150 per second. I guess the fact that they don't regenerate during day maybe it's better. Like, and also as night elf, you're always very hesitant to use them during the night because you need to manage that. Like, you need to ration them. I think that's the word. Like, need to be careful with them. This could end up being very good, actually. It's hard to picture just like that with this small number change. And then Chimera Roost no longer requires Ancient of Wind to build. It's like something that on paper seems kind of crazy. Like in StarCraft, there was a change like this where you didn't need an eBay to make a turret anymore. So gonna be it's hard when you have so much muscle memory and you think that something requires something to kind of get it the imprint in your head. But yeah, it's pretty crazy that you can go Chimeras without an Ancient of Wind anymore, guys. You could be seeing a whole lot more of these Chimeras. Neutral balance changes. Purge, reduce damage to summon units from 400 to 200. Oh, really? Okay, I guess it's less bad now when creeps actually decide to mess you up. Boot of Speed not have a stock of 2? Oh, that's really sick. That is really sick because now you don't have to compete for the boots and whoever has the better ping and gets them wins. I wonder actually, you know what makes me curious about this is how many people are gonna buy 2 boots of speed and sell 1 to make sure the opponent doesn't get them. I feel like that would be a very good thing to do, but you need to have the cash flow. You need to have enough gold. So it's gonna create this dynamic where some people might actually try to go for it, and then you will have to try and prioritize boots even more. Woo! Some crazy changes, guys. Okay, so that's gonna be it. I'm gonna play some games now and then try some of these changes. I'll keep this open. If you guys wanna read through these notes, do !PTR in the chat. And yeah, let me know what you think about them, guys.